when you remove belonging from being a central part of inclusion, you no longer have inclusion. You no longer have an inclusive workplace if people don't feel that they belong. You have an integrated workplace where people coexist, where they coexist in harmony without large amounts of conflict. And that's not a bad thing, but that's not inclusion. And so the adding of belonging tagged on to the end of diversity, equity, and inclusion, I think does a huge disservice to not only how important and central belonging is to the whole conversation, but it waters down and it weakens inclusion as well.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I think that if we're removing belonging from inclusion, then is it still inclusion? When you're trying to create the look of inclusion, you've created integration.
Yeah.
But if you want to create the culture of inclusion, then belonging is a fundamental component that you can't separate it. Because to me, having inclusion and belonging, DEIB, is like saying we have soup and we have soup with broth. Well, then what was the first soup? Is it just wet vegetables? The whole point of soup is the broth. It's just like the whole point of inclusion is belonging. It's a very odd thing to separate and still call inclusion.
A pizza with no dough is just a collection, right?
Right.
Now it's just vegetables and cheese on my plate, right? Exactly. It's no longer pizza.
Exactly. So it's one of those things where I do get the point of trying to prioritize belonging, but again, what that more speaks to when you put the B after the I, so DEIB, is you're actually saying we don't really understand inclusion.
Yeah.
So we're making sure that our inclusion has belonging, just like we don't really understand soup, so our soup has broth, right?